Hi, it's Monday, it's 3 o'clock, and it's Together Unlocked, brought to you by Together 2012 from East London and the West Midlands. Let's start today with some introductions and descriptions from the West Midlands.
Yeah, hi everybody. It's Robin Surgeonator here, business director at Together 2012, and the artist otherwise known as Angry Fish, and co-host of Together Unlocked. And I am sitting at the, as I sit in it, left-hand end of the sofa, up here in Sutton Coldfield. It's another beautiful day outside. I am sporting very summery white grey hair, um, gorgeous rim-free glasses, and a special stop my chin from getting sunburnt, unshaved look with a black t-shirt, which is I think I might have worn it before actually. I'm following in the best paths of Julie Newman, and wearing a uh, British punk and ska weekender t-shirt with loads of names of British punk and ska weekend bands.
And I am Josh Surgeonator. I'm a doctoral student and also host of Together TV. Um, I'm currently wearing a pink uh, fat face t-shirt that has a kind of designer kind of blueprint um, model of a longboard, a shortboard, and a fishtail surfboards, and the kind of measurements and things through all of those. And I have some swept over kind of dirty blondish hair that I've been working out in the garden in the sun. Working in the garden, I mean sitting in the garden on a computer, not doing any gardening. Um,
That's
but
your excuse.
yeah, it's tarnished with natural oils, which is a nice way of saying it's a bit sweaty, and that's why it's a bit dirty.
Audio description's one thing. It's a good job you can't do smell-o-vision. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I know, because
People
you do
say
stink
they
today.
are through lockdown because, of course, all four of us are in isolation or shielding, whatever you want to call it, for the duration. We bring our wheelchairs together to make that virtual sofa. So, here in East London, I'm Ju Gosling. I'm an artist and the artistic director of Together 2012, which was founded following the London 2012 Paralympics to create a lasting and meaningful cultural legacy in the main host borough of Newham. I've got short red minute hair growing out, but thank goodness for Brill Cream. I've got black rimmed glasses. I have a white t shirt that says, Choose our NHS, choose love. And I bought that because it was a fundraiser for the NHS. It's a Catherine Hamnet t-shirt who did those slogan t-shirts back in the 80s to start with, I think. And it's difficult to know who else you would choose because not only can I not afford to go private, but in fact all the private hospitals are being taken over by the NHS for the duration. But I particularly wanted to wear that today because I had a bit of a hiccup at the weekend. I got some prescription medication side effects Friday night. Saturday morning, we discovered there was no NHS delivery system at the weekend for replacement prescription. There were no NHS volunteers working at the weekend, and the adult services hotline kept ringing off without being answered. What did my wonderful pharmacist do? With Julie's persuasion, he brought it around himself after he finished work. So, yes, I would choose the NHS even if I could afford not to choose the NHS. I suggest Catherine Hamlet thinks a little bit more carefully about slogans, but it's still an important t shirt to me. So thank you, NHS, and thank you in particular, Newman's Pharmacy in the Barking Road, Plaistow. Julie.
Absolutely. I fully endorse that before I go into a description about myself or even my name. I am called Julie. But I think, sort of just to finish that bit of conversation off, one thing that I found consistent through just before the lockdown formally started was the support from the chemists. And Newman's on the Barking Road in Canning Town have been consistently over and above what's been asked of them. The kindness and the helpfulness with which they treat each phone call has been, I think, very, very noteworthy because they're just so polite and so respectful. And even when I'm asking the impossible, we can usually find a way around it.
Yeah, and I think we've said before, haven't we? And Penny's talked on the show about going to hospital. If you're not feeling well, it's really important to contact the NHS. Don't feel they're too busy for you because of coronavirus. They're not. And these things can become much more expensive and difficult for them later if something turns into an emergency. But let's have a proper introduction and description from
Okay,
you.
doke. I'm Julie. I'm the chair. I'm Newman, Julie Newman. That's what I'm called. I have silver and gold hair. Currently, I'm experimenting with a series of hair products, which I find very strange and not necessarily helpful, but it's interesting. It's something different. Today, I'm wearing my usual dark rimmed glasses. Behind me, there's the corporation dust cart picking up the recycling. And I don't know if you can hear it or not, but if you can hear something, that's what it is. And I'm wearing a dark t shirt. I thought it was blue until I got into the light and realized it's black.
Well, that's an interesting combination. Julie doesn't have a huge outfit because she moved into my studios for the duration. And although we, in theory, are allowed to go, I believe, out once a day now, it does not seem like a very good idea because if I scuttle out into the backyard just to clear up after our assistance dogs, what do I hear in every direction but coughing? So that does not suggest to me it is very safe. However, I'm sure it's a big relief for some people that they can at least go outside and meet a relative that they haven't seen, or indeed a partner. So, also today with us, we have our invisible friend Julia. And Julia and her friend Norma are going to be providing live captions from now on. So if you're watching this show on our website, there are live captions in the box below the live stream. And if you're watching on YouTube, then click through to together2012.org.uk and the webpage Together TV, and the box is just below the live stream. We will have captions available on the recordings as of this evening and from now on. So, thank you to Julia, our invisible friend. Apologies, we're going to learn to start speaking slower. So that's our next challenge. It's been a big learning curve since we went live at the end of March, and no doubt it will continue to be. But a huge thank you to Julia and also to the Lottery Community Fund, which has been very flexible and allowed us to spend our grant in ways that we hadn't anticipated. But we were last here on Friday talking about Josh. Could we have a bit less kind of weird eyes on the live stream and
Sorry,
explain to the rest of us?
I'm trying to. Yep, no, sorry.
If we all just focus on this program and not what's on any other screen, I think
I was
that.
just trying to check out if this.
Yeah, I was
No,
trying
I
to get the
think it would
captions
be best
on
if
and
we just leave
I'm
that
not
to.
finding them.
Yeah, it's okay, Josh. I think if we just leave that to the people that are dealing with it, and because you seem to be able to do a very good home and away series of expressions that makes us all think, oh my God, something really weird is going on just off the screen. So you just focus on the screen and any chaos in the background, we will leave to the production departments to let us know about. It is the very first one, and obviously, like I say, we're going to have to learn to slow down a bit. So on Friday, we had our usual something for the weekend spot. Did you follow up the different links and things, people? What did you enjoy most about the online stuff that was available? You go first.
Okay, I loved the launch of the rocket, the SpaceX, NASA combined effort. I just thought it was wonderful. I thought the footage was very, very interesting because it was right in the capsule with the space pilots, um, the astronauts. It followed them all the way into the International Space Station, which I thought was fantastic because they were greeted. I had been wondering because I hadn't really been caught up to date on the International Space Station, but there's 3 people already up there. So currently there's 5. A friend of mine in the West Country in Dorset was able to see the uh, the shuttle itself as it went up towards the space station um, on the launch night at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and was very, very excited, although said that the uh, the impact on her neck was was a bit extreme. Um, but how exciting is that to be able to see a space launch in the West Country from America, from Florida? I just think that's just beyond understanding. I think it's wonderful. So yeah, that's been great. The Spring Watch stuff has been fantastic. Uh, on the iPlayer, it's been showing occasional interviews with people, occasional readings from books, but constant little video cam things in the nests of the various birds hatching, which is lovely. Actually, it's really nice to see. They've got such wide beaks, really, really big beaks, which I think I'm going to have to do something with, sort of artistically. I'm not quite sure what, but it really demands that much attention. Um, and I can't remember what else was on the
I
thing.
think we found the end of Virtual Chelsea, because Chelsea would have
Ah,
lasted
yes.
10 days, wouldn't it?
Yes, and on Sunday we watched the run through for the vote for the garden of the year at Chelsea Flower Show. They have architects and landscape artists and big businesses and some charities designing gardens, which they have on show. So they have these show gardens. And yesterday they did a garden of the year, and I was quite pleased because it was my personal favourite. It was a Hello from Yorkshire garden, which was absolutely beautiful. And I thought at the time I can remember it being shown and thinking that's somewhere I would really love to go and see in person. But it'll be again on the iPlayer. So if you want to go back over the Gardener's World and the RHS coverage of it, it's relatively straightforward to find. But it really was beautiful. I thought it was lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much joined in with some of what Julie was looking at, although I daren't look at the space launch till it had taken off as predicted on Friday. It was just too scary for words. I, for some reason, don't find Elon Musk a very trustworthy kind of person, particularly when people are going blasting through space. I dipped in and out of the We Are One film festival, which we talked about. That's a collaboration between 20 international film festivals. It's running in real time on YouTube, as in once they've screened it, it doesn't stay up. And that goes on all week, and that's called We Are One. And if you click on YouTube on the front page, there's still major adverts. It's really, really easy to find. And I also enjoyed virtually dropping into the Tape Modern via YouTube on Friday. What about you two? How was your virtual activities for the weekend?
Well, we watched the launch as well. I think we watched it from about 2 hours out. The kind of preamble and it was just really really interesting. And kind of the backstory of why it was kind of such a big launch. It was the first time since 2011 that they'd launched a manned mission from the US. And, it was the same kind of launch pad that Apollo 11 was from and all the space shuttle stuff was from. It was really interesting to kind of get all of the history and the backstory that went with it, obviously along with um, kind of seeing the new rocket. Um, and then on Sunday, I tried out. They talked a lot on the stream about the docking simulator that they've got on the SpaceX site that kind of mirrors the digital kind of controls that the astronauts actually have. And I gave that a try, and slightly brag, but I did successfully dock on the first try, and apparently that was very difficult. So, but no one else has tried it yet for me to have bragging rights over them that they all crashed. But hopefully I'll force them to at some point, and that's been us being competitive again, I think. But
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a bit of repetition, really, because we sat and watched the launch, whilst playing a no real money virtual poker game with about 38 cousins uncles, aunties of the family. Just one of those funny things that you do. They seem to do it a bit more regularly. We're amateur players by comparison.
And how does that work? Is that something you get together on Zoom to do as a family? Or
No, it's on an app. It is an app, and it's a free app. I, but obviously there is options within the app. You can host games, and so you don't have to spend anything. But obviously, the app is really there for people who want to gamble. So it's not something.
I think the whole app is there is no real outside of kind of buying extra things. Yeah, there's no real money involved. Yeah, you can't if you lose, you don't lose any real money.
No.
It's all
But
pretend.
it's interesting though, because I hadn't, we've talked a lot about the need to stay indoors and the fact that's going to be quite a long term thing. And, one of the reasons that we do this show is that although we do Zooms together, and in fact, we have a Zoom together on Thursday night, if anybody would like to attend, it's poetry, music, chat, open mic. Just email tv at together2012.org.uk and we'll send you the link. But one of the difficulties with Zoom is it's very data hungry. So for those of us who are lucky enough to have broadband, that's great. I think YouTube, in theory, can use about a sixth of how much data Zoom uses. But I think apps would be much less data hungry again than YouTube. And it sounds like a really interesting way of getting together with families and friends who've maybe got mobiles with perhaps 2 GB of data a month when you can use that in a HD Zoom in an hour. I mean, do you try any other apps or games to get together with people?
Um, we haven't in terms of kind of into household type things. Obviously, I do some kind of online gaming and things on kind of Xboxes. But yeah, that's all kind of built in.
And I suppose we've done lots of quizzes, but they have been on Zoom rather than app-based ones. I mean, whether we use Alexa and we play. I can't think. Alexa cannot say Trivial Pursuits.
No, it's Trivial Pursuitas. If you ask Alexa.
But we do play Trivial Pursuits with Alexa around the dinner table quite a lot of the time, which is, just fun. I mean, obviously you can't do that into household.
Yeah, we should stop saying it as well. If anyone does have a Amazon branded virtual assistant in the room, we apologise if she's going mad in the background.
Buy me a Range Rover. No. No, and I mean, and I kind of did as I promised I was going to do. Is that, well, apart from yesterday did get busier, but Saturday I put my feet up. We are lucky enough to be able to get outside in our garden. I'm not outside the house, but in the garden, and put the umbrella up and just chilled. It was lovely.
Yeah, I think that theme of the previous week in Mental Health Awareness Week and be kind, starting with being kind to yourself, is just really important at the moment. And yeah, I did the same. And again, if you're having any kind of health difficulties, I had a medication problem, do not strain yourself. Nothing is so important at the moment that it can't just wait till tomorrow or indeed the next day. And particularly in this heat, it's due to be 29 degrees in London. It is not time to be decorating, gardening, tidying up your house, or sorting out all of that paperwork. Again, it can wait. By Wednesday, it is due to be cooler. My dog had a very nasty episode with heat stroke 2 or 3 years ago, and he collapsed and nearly died at 10 o'clock at night. I used to think it was about being outside in the sunshine. But in fact, I've got a video that I'm editing, which my vet has recorded, which is all about how easy it is for animals to get heat stroke and how easy that is indoors. And the same is actually true of humans. So I know the act uppers have been sitting on their balcony with their feet in buckets of ice cold water with another bucket of water for the assistant's dog, Merlot. And I think that sounds like a really good idea. But now we have a new video about our Join In From Home program. We hope that it's going to play properly, but bear in mind that it has just been recorded and we have had a few technical issues with our live streaming platform in the past. So let me just bring this up. Together 2012 is running a Join In From Home programme from our website together2012.org.uk. Click on the link at the top of the page, Join In From Home, to go straight to the main page where you have a wide range of accessible, inclusive creative activities, mostly using things that you would already have at home. At the top of the page and throughout the pages you will also see videos in British Sign Language to translate the site for deaf people. These videos can also be useful if you have difficulties reading and you simply want to hear more of the content. The Join In From Home programme is based on the activities that we would usually be running in East London. So, for example, we have an arts club which usually operates on a Tuesday with craft-based activities and on a Friday morning for drawing and painting. Here you can join in with the arts club's Hands project and celebrate your uniqueness and membership of the human race. There are full instructions on the linked page here. But essentially, we invite you to draw around your hand on a piece of card. It could be an old cereal packet. Cut the shape out, turn it over, and decorate it with anything you would like to do. It could be paints, crayons, glitter, collage, beads, leaves, anything you can think of. Photograph your hand or hands and send it to us at tv@together2012.org.uk. We'll add it to our video installation and share it on social media. The dance club usually meets on the fourth Monday of each month and they create improvised masked dance for the screen. Here you can also see their very first film where they simply made masks from paper plates, covered themselves with fabric and just moved gently to the music. You can hear as well there's an improvised soundtrack. So we're suggesting that you make a mask out of anything you can think of. It could be a cardboard box, a paper bag, a paper plate as in here. Video yourself dancing in it and then share the video with us. We will show it on screen and we will also enter it into the dance programme of our film festival which we run every December. If you're temporarily or permanently chair-based, there's also a warm-up you can do here created by our associate wheelchair dance company Folk in Motion, and that focuses on relaxing your upper body and improving your breathing. All of our activities can be enjoyed by families at home, but we also have some of our favourite activities here from our family activity days, which we usually hold in the school holidays. Card making with pens, stickers and paper is also popular. You can show someone you're thinking of them by making them a special card, and if it can't be delivered safely, then send a photograph with a personal message or keep it till later. Here we have instructions for making a sock puppet, a storage jar or night light, or a lunchbox or storage box, all of which are really popular with our family activity days, and you can click on each of these links to get full instructions. So with the sock puppet, for example, you have lots of instructions with photographs to show you exactly what to do. Same with the storage jar. And same with the lunchbox or storage box. And you can see how effective it is just to use very, very simple techniques. Everyone is completely unique. Our music club usually meets on the first Friday of each month We have an open mic session and we invite everybody to play along with percussion instruments. So here you can learn how to make your own percussion instruments from recycled materials. And you can also join in a percussion workshop from last summer in terms of Carnival Percussion. So these three instruments are used most often in Carnival. We have a shaker and a go-go and a hand drum. So this is how to make a recycled shaker, a recycled go-go and a recycled hand drum. You can also, if you're technically minded, make your own tactile sound instrument. This does require a few simple electronics, but is a very interesting and exciting project as part of our Vibrafusion ongoing work. The Photographers and Filmmakers Club usually meets on the second Monday of each month. We're inviting you to make a video at home with the theme of home and share it with us. You can use a phone or a camera, make any kind of film you wish, including drama, documentary, dance, animation, artist films, comedy, and they'll be eligible for a CAT award at our December Film Festival. The Pop-Up Poetry Club meets on a Wednesday morning. We also run regular poetry projects and poetry cafes. We're inviting you to write or sign a poem on the theme of Together and send it to us to share on social media. We're also going to be publishing an anthology of the Together poems in November, and everybody who contributes will get a copy of the physical book. You can also listen with Together. We have Spotify playlists created by Robin Surgeonator, also known as our TV presenter Angry Fish, and we also have 2 classical music playlists from Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, including one that's uniquely suited to people who are feeling very unwell. You can also watch with us from home. In addition to Together 2012 TV with Together Unlocked and other live streams, we have the Together Disability Film Festival highlights. Each year we run the International Together Disability Film Festival in Stratford, bringing together a wide range of films by disabled filmmakers, as well as films about disability issues and disabled people. We always publish the programmes online with links to the films that are freely available, so we invite you to revisit our recent film festivals from the comfort of your own home, and also to send us reviews of those films. And finally, you can sit back, relax and enjoy videos of past live performances, artist talks and creative workshops that we've produced in the past here. So, for example, from past festivals, we have documentation and films of creative dance workshops, street art performances, dances that the dance club have created, dance performances, and of course we're continuing to add new activities on a regular basis. Right, so that's us back again. Can you hear us, Robin? Nope, and we can't hear you either. You're still muted. How about that?
Yep, that's good.
Good. So let me just get our text back up on screen to remind people that we're here every week, bank holidays accepted, Monday, Wednesday and Friday 3 to 4. And our slogan is stay home, whatever the government say, stay creative, stay well. You can contact us on info@together2012.org.uk or tv@together2012.org.uk. And of course, we don't just welcome contributions from our Join In From Home programme, we welcome all of your artwork on this show. And we have another picture has been sent in from Pritesh Patel. So let me see if I can get this up and we'll do a bit of description. So this is Pritesh's picture on the theme of home. It's very, very brightly coloured. It's quite abstract, but what I find really interesting, because Pritesh sent us a picture of his birds flying last week, is this is also literally a bird's eye view. Pritesh does these very stylized birds. These have red bodies, blue heads, green wings, sort of circles and kind of long oblong shapes. And they're looking down over the river and a house where the house is against a kind of yellowish background, but it's a blue sort of square house with a yellow chimney. The sun is shining down, and I think that's where a lot of the orangey red in the right hand corner comes from as well. And the sun has a happy face. Robin, Josh, Julie, do we have anything to add about Pritesh's picture for anybody who can't see it?
I mean, certainly I love the continuation of the theme of the birds, and the river, showing it. So it's kind of, it's almost telling a story, isn't it? If you put the two together, um, and it's great vibrant colours as well. And there's I believe, a human at the top of that picture in a red dress, as well.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's. I think he's outlined some of it in pencil first, and then it looks like crayon. It's a very vibrant technique, isn't it, Judy?
I think it's full of motion again. I think his Pritesh's birds give it a, because the wings are open, it gives it a real sense of activity and motion. I love that. And I think Robin's right. If you add the river to that, because the river's always flowing as well.
And we have a Together TV highlights page, which is a sort of link under the main Together Unlocked page. And we always put up the videos and different things we've shown. So I'm also going to put a picture of that up there. I mean, we're slightly hampered with artwork because I think, in a way, people would love to be able to scan it. And of course, most people don't have scanners at home. They've taken a photograph on their phone, but I think it's still a really fantastic representation. So let me just take that one down. And then Ellen Goody has sent us another video, and I'm just going to try and put this on as a solo piece so we don't get any echo.
Ball, golden ball. I'm Barbie, and it's shiny like my hair. The golden ball is round and beautiful like the world. Funny, we'll make it together. The golden ball is with the rest of us. I don't do nothing all day, just wait until it rolls down the aisle. You can join in now if you want. You can join in if you want to.
There's only
Way
one
out
way
of the
out
storm.
of
There's only one way
out
out
of
of
the
the storm. There's only one way out of this storm. Strike! 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 Woo!
So thank you for that, Ellen. And that was Ellen singing what I believe was Golden Ball in her bedroom.
She's very enthusiastic, and I love that about Ellen's songs.
Well, I could hear Jade, I'm sure, in the background. So there wasn't.
Well, somebody, I think it was, I think Hannah from Act Up was recording it on Zoom, although Ellen's not actually part of Act Up. But yes, I think we might have heard Hannah. Hannah's living with Stera for the duration. So yes, I'm not quite sure who we heard in the background if you're out there listening, but please do send us your songs, your films, your photos, your artwork, your poems. We love seeing them and hearing them and sharing them. So there's a lot of nodding for anybody who
Yeah,
can't.
yeah. Sorry, we
Sorry.
are. We love seeing it all. Everybody.
So it's time to move on. One of the things we do on a Monday is look at topics that might be relevant to the month, the day, or the week. And this is the 1st of June, so it's Pride Month, which I have to say has had very, very little publicity, despite the fact that Pride has got an awful lot more to do with it than just parties. The parties have been cancelled, but the Pride is very much there. So we thought we would just kick off by talking about a few of the issues.
Yeah, I think for me it was very interesting to go and do a Google search. Obviously, other search engines are available, but I did a search and I went onto two sites, really thinking I wasn't going to learn an awful lot. I learned a tremendous amount. Uh, the Wikipedia site has been brought up to date in as much as it's got much more additional material about the original riots in New York City in Greenwich and in Christopher Street where the Stonewall Inn was based.
And I think that's so relevant today, isn't it? When you look at the riots across America and the protests around the world, to remember that the whole kind of liberation movement for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people came from those transgender women and drag queens rioting in Christopher Street. Can you tell us a bit more about it? It was New York, wasn't it?
It's New York. It was the 28th of June in 1969. Uh, the police raided the bar with no warning, and usually police raids were fairly frequent, but there was a warning. This one came without warning, and uh, people were being quite badly beaten up and roughhoused and so on by the police. Very similar, actually, to what goes on today. But there was one woman who was handcuffed and was thrown into the back of the police wagon. And as she was thrown in, she called out, "Come on, you guys, isn't anybody going to help?" And then whoosh, the whole thing exploded. It was like putting a flame to gasoline or petrol, and the whole thing just went up. Um, at the time that the riots in the streets started, and they tried to push over the police van, and there was all sorts of altercations. The people who originally were put into the police vans were, I think, allowed by the police. Reading between the lines, I think the police deliberately turned their back on them, and they escaped. Um, but one of the issues, one of the main issues, was that the police procedure involved grabbing people by their immediate identity. So, for some people, for some blokes who were dressed up as women, they would be grabbed as women. And then they would be subject to an examination to find out what their genital identity was. And this caused a tremendous amount of problems because it meant that trans people, people who had issues around their sexual identity, were being exposed to a lot of publicity involving their parents and outside agencies. So they were made really, really unsafe. And that's what primarily, I think, triggered the riots. Um, in Europe, Pride is called Christopher Street Day. Uh, you know, even to this day, when I went over many years ago with a trade union on a trade union delegation for a European conference, we took part in the very first uh, European, um, uh, what do they call it, Euro Pride. So we were part of the first Euro Pride, and I found it extremely touching to find people from all over Europe coming to Berlin to be part of that march. I was very, very lucky. They put me they put me onto a milk cart, and, and I led the parade. And I think I even tried to give a Ich ein Berliner type speech at the rally. But one of the things that I found the most joyous was that there were little relays of German lesbians coming up and giving me small bottles of champagne. So by the time we got to the rally, I was extremely happy But it was a tremendous opportunity to see Europe coming together. There was at that time in Berlin, there was a very strong uh, homophobic, fascist um, movement, and they tried to stop the well, the celebrations and the march itself. And I was really moved by the immediate response from the whole of the community in Berlin. It was something that's going to stay with me, I think, probably for all my days. But it's really useful to look back at the history, to reread things that you think you already know, because they have been added to, and they've been added to by people who either were there or knew somebody who was there, and they have an authority about them, which I think is impressive.
Am I right in thinking Stonewall was the name of the bar that the New York police raided, and that's where you get Stonewall and Christopher Street from?
Yeah, it was Stonewall Inn. It was the Stonewall Inn, um, and Christopher Street. Yeah, it's on Christopher Street, across from Christopher Park. Apparently, I've never been there. I've never been to New York, so I don't know. But as I say, there's also a history archive which has got a very good detailed history of it as well, explaining the context.
Yeah, and I think it's, we have LGBT History Month in February, which is separate to Pride Month. But I think both those things are so important because we don't hear this history. It's like Black History Month. We still don't understand. We don't even begin to understand really, just what a long, long history our country has had with Africa and later the Caribbean, how long people of colour have been in this country, the part they've played for centuries. It's a long time really until these kind of things are taught in school. And yet, when we look at why historically some groups of people might have been ignored, then you have to look back at your history to understand why. I'm a co-chair of Regard, which is the national LGBTQI plus, as we call it, disabled people's organisation. So it's an organisation run by and for people who identify as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer, or anything related, but is essentially falling under that quite wide umbrella of different groups. We've been very concerned through the pandemic because we know that there's a lot more disabled people in our community than in the population at large. And that's for some quite sad reasons. People very often experience bullying, harassment, and abuse at school and in education. They experience it at home. And that doesn't just impact on people's education and achievement in younger life, it can also leave people with lifetime, not just mental health difficulties, but also related physical health problems. And then, while there is still such a need to stay hidden or closeted, as we call it, people are very seldom left with nowhere to meet but places that sell alcohol. So then you have alcohol related problems, you have drug related problems. People feel very nervous about coming out, so they have a drink, they have a cigarette, and all of these things impact, as of course does HIV, because having an illness that can be controlled by medication is not the same thing at all as having no health problems from it. So, for a variety of reasons, we think that if as many as between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 of the British public are disabled, then it's as many as 1 in 3 if you're LGBTQI plus. And when we are disabled, we're much more likely to be dependent on social care because the vast majority of LGBT people and indeed disabled people do not have children of their own. And when it comes to LGBTQI plus people, we're also much more likely to move away from the places we grew up. So we don't have those lifetime friends, we don't have that close family support. So we know that LGBTQI plus people are very overrepresented in care homes. And from Regard's perspective, that has been a growing concern really on a daily basis, that if people have been suffering so much, I mean, it hurts me when I hear the government say, oh, 2/3 of care homes have not had infections, and you think that's 1 in 3. You know, 1 in 3 carefully maintained social care environments that should have had, you know, it should have been easy for them to put infection controls into process, but 1 in 3 didn't. The people who haven't got the relatives and friends to come and see them and argue on their behalf are always the ones most at risk of neglect. So I think that has been a real serious and ongoing concern for us. And I think also the people who are having to live with family and friends who don't know they're gay, who maybe have these lives where they get out and about once or twice a week, they go to a community space, and they haven't been able to do that. And that again is very, very bad for people's mental health. Regard has a website, a Facebook page, a Twitter stream. We circulate our own materials, we have different things going on, we have different help available, but we also circulate all of the different activities, you know, everything from London Friend, LGBT Consortium. There are a lot of helplines, support lines, and indeed just online social opportunities out there. We know it's particularly difficult for disabled people who use self directed care. We did some research with Stonewall a couple of years ago, didn't we? And I think almost half of people who employed their own PAs still couldn't be completely open with them about who they were and get assistance to go to something like Pride. So sadly, I don't think Pride's being cancelled are going to make a massive difference to people like us. London Pride has been very, very, very inaccessible for at least 10 years. It didn't used to be, but it is very inaccessible now. And unfortunately, that's been a growing trend, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think it's sad because I can remember it was now 30 years ago. Uh, Within the trade union movement, we worked very, very closely with the Pride organisers to set up guidelines. Um, and they had some of the funding from the trade union movement on the understanding that these guidelines would be met. And year after year after year, we had to go back and have the same fights over and over again about access and about accessible events. I think what's particularly sad to me is that you get every so often somebody popping up who says, "Oh, I'm going to sort it all out. You know, I'm fed up with not being able to be included." And they go in there, and you watch them having the same arguments that we had 30 years ago. And I just think that's actually quite shameful. At one point, I wanted to make a legal case because it struck me that we had managed to get so many reasonable adjustments to conform to the law that when a new Pride organisation came in to take over the Pride itself, they wiped those reasonable adjustments out. But it was impossible to get anybody to take any notice or to progress that, including the EHRC. And I find who the Equality and Human Rights Commission, sort of nationally, um, funded by the government, of course. But you know, sort of like successive governments, successive councils within Westminster Council have refused to listen to our request for an accessible event. And you would think in 2020 we wouldn't be having these arguments.
I think can I
Absolutely. Yes, please do, you know, do come in.
yeah. I mean, I just there's I mean, there's a couple of really fundamental points actually in what you've been saying. One is that I think from the outside, but knowing the people who go to Pride that aren't actually from the
LGBT
TQI
plus.
yes,
Yeah.
thank you, um, community, the P has turned from Pride to party, and it's just an excuse to party and be seen with some people who are a bit more flamboyant and accept them for a day, um, and then a few more beers, and accept them a bit more, and then some people go home hoping that what happened at Pride stays at Pride. But I think that if in the same way that we talked about mental health awareness, and how we promote that understanding, and well, more than understanding, that kind of the empathetic response to it, um, you know, how do we I say we as Together Unlocked, as artists, how do we change the broader perspective of, and I know it's a huge question, but of it shouldn't even be about acceptance, because acceptance presupposes there is something to be accepted when it should just be. I mean, I know that's a huge kind of leap from where most places are, but
I think it's absolutely right. And I think, we'll come back to this theme not just this week, but all month, because there's a lot of things that I think, we can usefully discuss, including that whole idea of whether disabled people are allowed to be sexual. And also what we talked about in the last few weeks around social models and medical models of disability. I think one of, we hear this buzzword intersectionality, which just means seeing you as a whole person. So I'm gay, I'm a woman, I'm British, I'm a lesbian, I'm disabled. All of these things are part and parcel. They're not different hats that I put on at
yeah,
different times of day. But I think the difficulty we've had as regard lobbying funders has been that, oh, there's a we do something for disabled people and it's over in that box, and this is what we're doing for gay people, and we don't want to hear that it's not perfect. We don't want to hear that a third of you can't join in because you're supposed to be in a different box. Let's have some final words on that, and then we need to start winding up and talking about Wednesday.
I just wanted to ask Josh, because my experience is that younger people, especially people at universities, are more progressive, and perhaps a little bit more strident in supporting organizations like Regard or disabled people or LGBTQI people who want to participate in something. They don't really see where the problems are, and tend to try and get them sorted out fairly quickly. What's your experience at Sheffield?
Um, I think it is becoming. It sounds really silly to say it's becoming much more accepted, because, like like Robin said, like Dad said, you know, there isn't anything. It shouldn't have to be something to be. It just is. Yeah, I mean, universities, always do kind of um drives around kind of June of Pride and things like that, and sports teams have rainbow laces and for varsities and things like that. Um, yeah, I think it is just becoming, as it should be, just part of life. Um, I'm quite lucky that we have a very open and diverse friendship group. There's a number of kind of gay guys and lesbians in it, and it's never mentioned, not in a kind of don't ask, don't tell way, but in a how was your date? Not, oh, did you go on a date with a man? Like, it's just you know how's the new boyfriend? When are you going out? It is just, yeah. There's no, it's not a problem. I know that sounds a really kind of stammery answer, but I'm trying to
No,
put it eloquently in a way that, yeah, it's just, as with being straight or anything else, it's just part of life, and I think it's really good. Obviously there are still issues, but it is starting to change, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we could pick up on Wednesday, when we always talk about virtual sport and gaming, is also some of those issues around who's out in sport and which sports it's okay to be out in. And of course, how you can do your best if you can't be yourself, which was a whole issue around Sochi when they had the Russian Paralympics. But like I say, we'll leave that till Wednesday, when we also have our regular guest, our virtual writer in residence, Penny Pepper from Hastings, sometimes accompanied by her cat Pixie. I don't think we've had any animals on the show today, but we're about to put up a special web page under the TV Unlocked site, because we thought people would actually rather look at photos of the pets than photos of us. And we're always wanting to do what the audience wants. So, Wednesday, we also have Josh talking about gaming and virtual sport. And of course, we have our own Paralympics where we race clockwork toys for the right of a teddy bear to wear a gold medal. You can see Nigel, the teddy bear behind me, is without medal. He's very much hoping to be able to wear a medal again on Wednesday. But we are up against the most competitive family in the world, and somehow they managed to cheat. So their teddy bears seem to be winning.
Where does that come from? How can we possibly cheat?
Well, I think it was when I realised that both grannies had got red and blue on their outfits, and you were going for the red one or blue one, and then going, "We've won," was where I
No.
started thinking, what do they call it? Is it VAR? VAR?
Yeah.
But no, I
That's-
saw you won fair and square last week, and Nigel doesn't mind. So we're also taking part in the worldwide virtual bear hunt. Generally speaking, we have a different bear up every week, although I'm already getting to the point where bears are going to have to start being given a second opportunity. I won't say recycled because that's a bit mean. Very soon. Um, as it's Monday, I'm going to read us out in a minute with a poem suitably themed for Pride Month called Chains. But before that, we'll go round. It's a very short poem and have some goodbyes and some final thoughts. Do you have some final thoughts, Robin?
I do indeed. I mean, something I must get in really quickly. I've just become involved, kind of very outsides of it at the moment, but with plans around what's going to happen with the Commonwealth Games, and the kind of arts and cultural activities that are surrounding it, and they're actually starting already, and they are actually kind of there is a performance possibilities for the 20th of June this year for some virtual stuff. They've got a festival. It's called Midsummer. Um, as it's on the 20th of June. Fair enough. And at the moment they have no content from disabled artists whatsoever. So I said that I would, bring it up really quickly today. They won't get into any politics on it, but bring it up really quickly and say, if anyone they're going to look for, if they're going to take anything, it's got to be absolutely performance ready. I talked about, there are a few poets around that we know could do an online performance kind of, pretty simply. So if anybody out there is thinking, well, actually, that could be something I could do, there's no guarantees. The only guarantee is there's no money. But if somebody is interested, if you can get in touch with me via Together, you can do that.
That's Robin at together2012.org.uk.
Yeah.
And we'll also put that up on the highlights page.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, other than that, yeah, just to say, have a great week. We'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah, I just wanted to super briefly touch. I know G, you mentioned around kind of trying to stay cool over the next few days. Kind of damp towels and cloths on the back of your neck or cool in your hands is a really effective way of doing it. And if you are going to do it when you're drinking plenty of water or you are cooling down, super cold ice water isn't necessarily the best thing to do. Drink kind of tepid room temperature water. It's actually more effective at cooling you down, and hot drinks than actually drinking ice water. Ice water can actually kind of limit you cooling down. So
That's really helpful, Josh, and I completely agree. And I think if anybody is able to go into their gardens and doesn't have a big umbrella like Robin, then perhaps if they've got a bonnet, a hat, and a hat or a baseball cap, and I'm going to say goodbye now.
We've all got bonnets. It's fine.
Yes, we're wearing them indoors. So it's nearly 3 o'clock. So I shall say goodbye from East
And
London.
for anyone listening, it's nearly 4.
Oh, so thank you, Robin. So it's nearly
time dilation.
4 o'clock. I'm going to ask you to mute your microphone, and I'm just going to finish with this short poem called Chains. Some chains I wear gladly. watching them shine in the light. Some chains I wear sadly, wet and green with age. Some chains I wear proudly, holding them high overhead. Some chains I will not wear, twisting and turning, pushing and pulling, shouting and screaming until I melt and slip effortlessly out. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on Wednesday.